Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here on this show in video format. And don't forget, if you want to leave a question and have it appear on this show, follow me on Twitter at Quincy, or put your notifications on so you can be notified when I put the community post up to ask these questions promptly. So with all that out the way, let's jump into the questions. And the first question is going to be, how do you feel about the hiring of first-time offensive coordinator in Van Pelt? Honestly, I didn't know what to think of it. I had to ask some of the people that I know that follow the Bengals closely, since that's where most of his history is. And they had nothing but great things to say about him. And honestly, they were kind of upset that he got poached from the from the Cincinnati Bengals coaching staff. So I hear nothing but good things. He comes recommended. Apparently he's highly thought of around the league. Now, a lot of coaches have been highly thought of and not panned out in that way, but the way it seems is that not Freddie, but the way it seems is that Kevin Stefanski is willing to kind of let him take over play calling responsibilities and kind of run the whole show there. So there's not really a track record there to get angry about, but there's nothing to make you comfortable in this hire. So, it's interesting. The Browns are going in a completely different direction than what many thought. People thought they were going to get a lot of established names. I would prefer if there was more kind of experience on the staff in whole. But, this is the direction they're going. And, if they're going to go this way, at least they're getting somebody who comes very, very highly thought of, and at least they're getting somebody who's well thought of and highly recommended in Van Pelt. So hope that answers your question, Dante. The next question comes from Stuart Anderson, who says, what's going to happen with Kareem Hunt? Do you think the Browns are going to keep him for another year and run the risk of him getting into trouble, or do they let him walk in free agency? This is an interesting situation, right? Because Kareem Hunt has a obvious history with not the domestic violence, but the violence against a woman while he was drunk. He kicked the woman in the face on video. And then also you have the issues with, the bar kind of interaction that he had with the security guard, which wasn't a big deal at the time and still doesn't really seem like a big deal. But this recent thing, right, TMZ video, I'm going to go more in depth about this later this week. But that is concerning. And not even from a football standpoint or even a moral standpoint, just on a human to human level, that's concerning, because it seems like, in all honesty, Kareem Hunt is battling some demons on a day-to-day basis. He said some things that indicate that, especially when he was like, sometimes I could be the worst person. That's somebody who's fighting something inside of him. I don't know what that is, or what kind of battle that he is going through, or that he is perceiving himself to go through. But, it seems like it's something that's very real to him, that he struggles with, and that drives him to certain vices that he cannot control at a level that we would like most adults to be able to control. I'm very concerned on that aspect about Kareem Hunt, because it doesn't seem like he has these battles wrapped up with his demons, and it does seem like it's a very current and ongoing problem that he's dealing with. Now, that being said, you got to look at Kareem Hunt as a football player and as a asset on the field. You also have to look at him as a human being off of it. I think the best thing for him is to go where he has friends and family. That is the Cleveland Browns right now. So, I would think for Kareem Hunt, he would want to stay here because, that's where he has support, unwavering support, at least with his family. I don't know what the situation is with the Browns now that Dorsey's not there. But it's just a difficult thing to look at. As far as his free agency goes, I think it's going to be hard for him not to get signed. Somebody's going to sign him. He's too good on the field not to get signed. Let's be real about it. But he's going to have a hard time getting a long-term contract or even money that's worthwhile for him to hit the market with, that the Browns may not even like. I think the money is going to be so small and the years are going to be so small that I don't know how many teams are going to offer him a contract knowing that the Browns are probably going to match it. And I don't know if any team is going to be willing to give him the years and money that it would take for the Browns not to feel like they can take the risk there with Hunt. So Hunt's probably going to play on the team next year. I think it's more than likely going to be in Cleveland. But he does have some battles that he's fighting. He's going to have to deal with the league with the whole marijuana thing since he admitted it on camera. And hopefully he starts to make some real progress, or maybe he just had a hiccup. But from what I saw in that video, it sounds like somebody who needs some professional and very real help. And I hope he seeks that in whichever avenue he feels comfortable with. But thank you, Stuart, for the question there. All right, and the next question comes from Rick Adkins, who says, do you think whoever the new DC is will play more of a zone or man to highlight Ward and Williams' strengths? All right, so it's been pretty reported that Joe Woods is going to more than likely be the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. And now it's hard to say what his system would be because he is right now a position coach and a passing game coordinator, interestingly enough. But from what his history indicates, he's a zone guy. So that means they're probably going to stick with zone. And I'm going to allude to this in a later question, but I think there's going to be a lot of change in the defensive back room. And I don't know if that's going to be well received by Browns fans, but I do see that coming. But yeah, I think Joe Woods is going to come in and bring a zone-heavy scheme, just like Steve Wilkes did. And I think that's going to be the situation with the Browns. The next question comes from Chaz Ramirez, who says, big fan, nice fresh breath of air to get quality sports news from non-mainstream sources. Thank you, man. Anyways, my question is, with Baker Mayfield, do you think it's best for the Browns to go after a known QB that could actually challenge him for the starting spot? It seems that he's gotten comfortable in his position and lost that chip. Another QB in the room could help revive that chip and show even how to handle himself as a leader. I know the catch-22 is, but I wondered what your thoughts on the matter. Yeah, be careful playing mind games chess with people we don't know. That's just what you would be doing with Baker Mayfield, is like you're trying to motivate him by signing guys. This is the one thing of all of the things that irritate me about like the hardcore football guys is like when they play these kind of mind games. This is stuff that happens with like little league coaches who don't know what they're doing, quite frankly, and they do things like this. I hate when this happens on the NFL level. So if the Browns brought in somebody, they had no intention of actually starting, but they wanted to light a fire under Baker Mayfield, that'd be stupid. Because why would you draft somebody number 1 overall that you feel like you have to do that to get a fire lit under their butt? No, the end of the day, the option is that, honestly, so no, I don't think that's what the Browns should do. I think the only thing you are going to have happen there is you're going to ruin the relationship between your quarterback that you drafted number 1 overall and the coaching staff and the general manager. And you're going to have a train wreck. That's a train wreck rating to happen, in my opinion. Now, what they really need is an experienced veteran quarterbacks coach. That's what Baker Mayfield lost the most. He went from Kevin Zampese, who was a former offensive coordinator, very experienced NFL coach in that quarterback room, to basically Drew Stanton and Ryan Finley. That's a large drop-off in experience and NFL know-how. And that's no shade to those two guys. It's just Zampese's been there longer. He's seen more. That those are the things that I think would actually help Baker Mayfield if you gave him support and experience in the room. If you bring somebody in to start for him, then you're just creating a controversy that's unnecessary in the fan base. You're creating a distraction, and it's just, I think it's largely unnecessary. I don't think Baker Mayfield's problem was that he wasn't motivated. I think he thought that he had, figured the league out his rookie year, and the league figured him out. It's a sophomore slump. Let's not overreact by doing something silly like that. And that's just my thoughts about the situation. But okay, and the next question is from Musa, who says, is this the last chance for Depot to prove his worth? Is he getting fired after a disappointing season? Is Paul DePodesta getting fired if he has a disappointing season? I would say the bar's 8-8. And here's the situation the Browns are in. And it's unfortunate, and you only get here because you mismanaged some things. But the Browns are in a situation where they're kind of in what they projected their Super Bowl window is going to be for the next 2 years, at least. So anything below 500, it's going to get somebody fired. That's just the reality of the situation. And, if you look at how this team was aligned, I would hope that it's not the case. But, John DePodesta seems like the first to go. He's at the end of his contract at the end of the year if this thing doesn't work out. Now, why is that a problem? Because you just hired a head coach. You just hired a GM that this dude recommended. So if you fire John DePodesta, and I don't know, would you give Andrew Berry a promotion after a disappointing season? That doesn't seem likely. So you probably hire somebody in to replace John DePodesta, who's going to be forced to keep Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski around for at least a year so they don't look like a complete dysfunctional dumpster fire for the third year in a row. And then you can make changes again, or you can end up in that weird, Hugh Jackson, DePodesta, John Dorsey situation where you have guys who don't like each other working with each other again. I hope this isn't the case, but I feel strongly that this team doesn't go at least 8-8. DePodesta is probably going to get released or let go or mutual parting, whatever they call it. And then, that's just going to trickle down the dysfunction from the top bottom. Honestly, if they chose to do this alignment in this way, they got to stick with it for 3 years, and that includes DePodesta. But you notice this line of hires did not come with DePodesta announcing that he has extended his contract for another 2 years to make sure that this all goes along. So that tells you what the situation is. In my opinion, they got to go 8-8, or else they're not going to be able to keep it because in, Jimmy Haslam's mind, if this team is not winning immediately, then it must be wrong. There is no such thing as patience. And instead of complaining about it or harping on it, that just is the reality in the world that the Haslams have created for themselves. So, Paul, you better hope you go over 500 because, it's going to be tough sledding for you. And it's not right, but, it is what it is. All right, so this next question comes from Giants Nation, who says, what's up, Quincy? My question is, do you think the Browns should trade for Von Miller? I think it will be a great addition with his experience, and is still a great talent. The only time I get to see him is in the Pro Bowl. But what do you think? He had a massive drop-off last year in production. He's still very good. Putting him against Myles Garrett might be able to re-energize him and get a little bit more out of him because he wouldn't be the key guy. I just don't know if this current regime, Andrew Berry, Paul DePodesta, are going to be the type of guys that would make that kind of trade. That's a very Dorsey trade, right? And Dorsey is kind of like the antithesis of the analytics kind of mindset. So, trading for a guy who's in his early 30s, big number on the contract, just doesn't seem very DePodestian. So I don't see that happening. Would it be good? I don't know, man. There was a sharp drop-off last year in Denver for Von Miller. He's still Von Miller, but, we've seen how bad this defensive line is without Myles Garrett, so you'd think Von Miller would do that. But then, I thought Olivier Vernon would be good enough on that other side. But it seems that, Olivier Vernon, Emmanuel Agba is somebody who was opposite of Myles Garrett, did not do well in that role, and then, goes to Kansas City and does better. So maybe there's something about that role that needs to be examined, and it's not necessarily the personnel, but I don't see it happening. And I don't know if I even would be the biggest fan of that kind of move. Sure, it's exciting because it's Von Miller, but we've learned from last year that excitement does not necessarily equal good. But good question, Giants Nation. Next question comes from Bruce Johnson. It says, yo, Q, this is all tough to process. Talking to a fan who is hoping the best, but expecting the worst based on drafting from when Barry was here and before. What can you tell us to keep our heads up high through this? High power offense, better defense. Will we even get an OC? Yeah, you're going to get an OC. I mean, they just kind of announced that. You're going to get DC too, obviously. But, with the Andrew Berry draft record, hey, look. His draft record matters, but also you have to keep in the context that he is not asked to do the same job that he was asked to do this time. And I don't even mean as a GM. That time in 2016, 2017, and even 2018 when he had some input, you would think he was trying to draft talent for a developing team. And he was not good at that from all accounts that we could go. And, people could say we don't know the decisions he made. The fact of the matter was that he was, the tiebreaker vote, essentially, in between Hugh Jackson and Sachi Brown. So, anything he voted on probably got done. So he probably was the deciding vote on a lot of things. And some of those decisions weren't great. But, we don't know. That's judging him by how he was able to identify young talent to build around. Now, he might not just be good at that. He might actually be good at identifying talent not to build around, but talent that can start, because they did get a lot of, starters in those drafts. They got some role players. And, that's where the Browns are at. They need role players out of the drafts. They don't need these superstars. They really can't even afford it anymore going forward. So maybe he's better at that as far as his draft record goes. The other thing to keep your head up is that the team's there. Everybody's worried about Andrew Berry. Unless he trades the whole team, the team's there. What they need to figure out is coaching. So at least for the next few years, the team's there. It's not going to matter if Andrew Berry is a good GM or not because, quite frankly, team's there. Roster's there. He doesn't have to do much. Team's there. They got to figure out on the coaching level and the leadership level. And, hopefully they're good enough at that to keep their jobs for more than a year. So, that's kind of my answer. I'm sorry if that's not clear, but that's my answer on that. The next question comes from Jimmy Lynch, who says, what do you think Nick Chubb will look like with a fullback in front of him? A lot like he did with Kareem Hunt in front of him. I think Kareem Hunt did a good job as a fullback, and I think he even did a better job because he's actually a threat to carry the ball. The fullback gets hyped up a lot. With Nick Chubb, it's interesting because, people think Nick Chubb's a middle field runner. He's not. He's an edge guy. He likes to get the corner. That's where he's at his best. And, fullbacks are kind of, you don't need a fullback as much in those situations as you do when you're running it up the middle. And since it's not Nick Chubb's specialty, there's two schools of thought. Since Nick Chubb's not a up the field runner, down the middle kind of guy, that having a fullback would probably be little to no effect because that's just not where his strength is. Or maybe it might give him the extra boom to make him even better in that area. I think a fullback's probably going to make little difference. I don't believe that the fullbacks, make that huge of a difference. I know they're real popular with people, but, I'm not a big fullback guy. I'm not a big buyer that the fullback's really going to change a lot of things. But thanks for the question. The next question comes from David Miner, who says, would you trade Denzel Ward for 2 number 1 picks? First rounders. 2 first rounders for Denzel Ward. I would make that trade so fast. Not even a disrespect to Denzel Ward, but you get 2 first round picks for DB. I don't care how good the DB is. You make that trade. That could be 2 offensive linemen right there. And you know what? Anybody who watched last season would definitely trade Denzel Ward for 2 starting offensive linemen. I would trade Denzel Ward for 2 number 1s. I don't know if I would trade him for just one number one, but maybe if you throw a 1 and a 2 in there, you know, it might get a little interesting. But yeah, 2 number ones for Denzel Ward. Yeah, I would break the phone to make that offer, to make that trade official. The next question comes from Mr. Pickleberry, who says, "Who are the targets in free agency for the Browns and why?" I think the Browns are going to target a lot of DBs in free agency. Speaking of Denzel Ward, I think they're going to get guys who are better fit for the zone scheme. That might see guys like Jimmy Smith, veteran, come in, or Eric Rowe, maybe even Logan Ryan from the Tennessee Titans, who's up. These are all guys I see the Browns going for, getting some veterans in there to go with a guy like Terrence Mitchell, who hopefully they are able to keep. And maybe they might even get rid of either Ward if they get that kind of offer, or Greedy Williams. But I think that's where the most shakeup's going to be on the team, is in that secondary room. You know, you're already losing Demarius Randall. You're kind of having to retool it. Your only option after Demarius Randall is Sheldrick Redwine, who was a draft pick of a regime that's no longer here. So all bets are off with the secondary, and I think the secondary is going to see a lot of changes this season. But that's it for all the questions today. Thank you guys for asking them. And again, if you want to ask the questions, you can hit that notification bell so you can be notified when the question prompt comes up. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Quincy. The link is in the description. So check it out. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.